All right, here we go.
Hey, folks. It's good to see you guys. We're gonna, we've got a bunch of folks coming in, so we're just gonna take a few minutes to let them in. Wow, technology can be your friend. And I just heard from one of my colleagues that another person at school was using exactly the same account and has something like 100 people waiting to get into their meeting. Uh-oh. If you're here for the admissions panel, this is the right place to be. And if you're here for a different thing altogether, let me know. Brian, do we have many more people, or should we, do you think we should get going? Because we had about 35.
Yeah, we don't have anyone else in the waiting room yet, but it's supposed to start at 4.
Let's give them a little bit. Yeah,
I think we should hang out a little bit.
So you guys are our early birds. Thank you for being early. And folks, if you don't mind, once we get to 4 o'clock, please do turn on your camera so we can see you. Thank you. Okay. This might be a good time to go to the concession stand and pick up some popcorn, some soda, some vegetable juice if you like that. Or a coffee. Hey, Ezra. Cool. Hi, Samantha. Okay. We still have to wait one more minute. We're all early birds.
John, do you have any jokes for us?
Sorry?
Do you have any good jokes for us?
No, I was going to say, this is the time when I think Zoom should give us the option of having background music. And it could be, you know, it could be cross-generational. So we could have a channel called Muzak for people my age. And we could have, well, you'd have to fill in the names of the music that would be appropriate to your generation. But presumably, you know, we'd have one for your parents, one for your grandparents, one for you, and we could click it. Maybe we could go back and forth. I suppose we could do a light show too, but I think music would, I don't know. Like, Ray, what would the music channel be called if it were aimed at high school students right now?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes, it is.
I don't know. Do you guys have any input? Like, what's a word
I'm gonna ask them what it's like in middle school, but you guys are a little bit older than most of our audience. Most, not all. Okay. I'll start making names up. It just won't be pretty. Joaquin, what do you think? You've been to a few of these events before. If we had music, what would the channel be called? Good thinking posture. I like that.
Putney Punk Rock.
Putney Punk. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, we can keep that. You know, you might want to talk to the people over at Zoom. Okay, this is looking more full. We've got We'll give it one more minute and then we can dive in. Oops. Okay, Brian, is that okay if we start? Okay, folks, if we haven't met, I'm happy to be introducing myself and this student leaders panel. My name is John Baringos. I have the pleasure of serving as Director of Admission and Financial Aid at the Putney School, which is a super progressive boarding and day school in southeastern Vermont. And it's a very cool place for students and adults alike. And you guys already know that a little bit, or you wouldn't be here. So I'm delighted that you're here, and I want to tell you a little bit about what you can expect over the next hour while we visit. This is the first of what we're calling Putney Student Leader Panels, or Leaders Panel, or Leaders Panels. I'm not sure if there's an S and where it goes, but the idea is that you're going to have a chance over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks to get acquainted with our school by getting acquainted with the students who have added responsibility as leaders. And some of those students are elected by students, and some of them are appointed by adults, and everything in between. And there's kids that are involved in different facets of leading the school. And one of those facets is the admission committee. And we have a group of 11 or 12 people in all, with a couple of teachers and a bunch of admission professionals and 5 or 6 seniors who go through a process to get selected. And about 3 times as many kids want to be on admission committee as can be. So it's a competitive process. And these guys, when they talk about their story, probably won't toot their own horns. So I will. They're really quite extraordinary. One of the things that's most important to us, even though we're a small school, we're a very diverse school. We've got a lot of different experiences and perspectives represented across our student body and across our families. So we're really interested in getting that breadth of representation and perspectives on the admission committee. We think that's going to be the best way for us to engage the widest array of students and families who are looking at schools. The idea behind this panel is that you're going to get to meet these students. We haven't yet started meeting as an admission committee, so it's not like you can say, tell me all about the students who've applied. They haven't started doing that part of the work. That'll be later in the fall and in the winter. But they have applied to get on the admission committee, and they have gone through some trainings, and they do have opinions and ideas about how admission should work. But that's the whole cool thing about this first one. You have ideas and opinions about what an admission committee should be looking at and emphasizing and prioritizing. So as much as you thought you were coming to learn about Putney, there's a bit of a trick in this. We actually are going to learn something about you, because we really want to hear what you think we should be thinking about this year as you and a bunch of other people apply to high school. So this will eventually get interactive, but in the beginning, we're going to start off by asking the admission committee members to introduce themselves briefly. They've got a few questions that they're going to try to respond to answer as a way to start us off. And then I'm going to facilitate questions, and I'm going to be really excited to hear what you guys have to say. If you are not sharing your face with us, I want to enthusiastically encourage you to turn on your camera, because we'd like to see you. That's an encouragement. It's not a mandate. If you are a parent, I'd very much like, when we get to the question and answers, for you not to participate until the students have. This is very much about students. And if you've got questions that don't get addressed during this, I am so available to talk to you, and I want to. But this is very much about having students understand that Putney has students at the very center of the endeavor, and we want to keep it that way. Brian, am I missing anything?
No, that sounds great.
Okay, oh good. Okay, there was a pause, which was awkward for me. Okay, we're gonna start with, let's see, Sophie Banks. Why don't you start us off?
Okay, let me know if I'm forgetting anything. But my name's Sophie. Well, I guess we're all seniors here, so that's irrelevant. But I'm a boarder at Putney. I come from Great Barrington, Massachusetts, which is a small town in Western Massachusetts. I came to Putney as a freshman, so this is my 4th year. And I came from a Waldorf school, which is similar to Putney in some ways, also different, but similar in that it's small and has some progressive background and thinking. And what else am I supposed to talk about, John?
I want you to tell them what it's like for you, having been away since you were an 8th grader. You haven't had to touch any part of an idea or a challenge around applying to school like these guys are about to. And yet, as a senior now, you're starting to think about college. And yet you're on an admission committee. What is that like? Or at least what does it seem like now?
Right. So yeah, as John said, we haven't actually started a lot of the application reading that we're going to get into in the winter. So that will probably affect my mindset a lot. But it is interesting right now to be applying to college and while being on an admissions committee, especially because I've been thinking a lot about, how I will be perceived through an application online, especially because with COVID, I am not doing the normal interviews or visits that I would normally do. So, and then on the other side, I'm also thinking about what kinds of things we're asking Putney prospective students, you guys, to tell us about yourselves. And I don't know, it's fun to be on both sides of that. I like it. And I'm excited to do admissions work because it'll give me some perspective to that, even though it'll kind of be after I've applied, but I'm excited.
Thank you very much, Soph.
Yeah.
Hey, Bailey, would you go next? Can't hear you yet. You're not muted. While you're getting unmuted, I do want to mention that we'd like to record this because there's folks who won't be able to come today who would be really interested in it. I hope that's okay with folks. If it's not okay, I'm not going to not record it. So, so I need to record it because I really want to help other folks. So if you really are uncomfortable, you can bail on this one and we can set up conversations for you in other ways. Bailey, how's it going now? Are you ready to introduce yourself? I get the sense that I'm not understanding what's going on. Sorry.
Bailey, why don't you take a moment and log out and restart and come back, and we can maybe have someone else.
Izzy Jones.
Hi, everyone. My name's Izzy. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I live in Woodstock, Vermont, which is like an hour north of Putney. I've lived in Vermont my whole life. Before Putney, I attended my public high school in my hometown, which was very different. It was definitely more like textbook-based learning. Classes were really big, and I didn't have the access that I have to my teachers here at Putney. And then my first junior year, because I repeated a year when I came to Putney, I attended a art semester program in California, and that really opened my eyes into experiencing a more progressive education style. And I really wanted to continue that way of learning, and I ended up at Putney, and I love it. I think the weirdest thing about being on an admissions committee while also thinking about how colleges will be perceiving me through my application is knowing that there are certain parts of my application that I feel super strong about and that I want colleges to think about the most. And I think that's helpful because I'll be able to better recognize when you guys have parts of your application that you really want to be heard or read the most. So, yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Hey, Jaden Hammond, your turn.
Hi, I'm Jaden Hammond, as John said. I'm a senior. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. The school that I went to before was a middle school that feels like so long ago, but also not at the same time. I went to the Ron Gleich Academy, which is a private school in Atlanta, Georgia, that is kind of has a different way of teaching, and we used to have visiting educators come and learn how to teach, and we'd sing songs, and we had a slide and all that. John likes the slide.
You had a serious slide. That was not a slide. That was like a slide.
One thing that I think about, I think mine is really similar to what Izzy said, as far as considering what I'm thinking about college-wise, is I really want, and I also think about the other people who are, what I've been thinking about a lot are the other people that I'm not competing with, but basically competing with. And I think it's just really, I've had to remind myself over and over again that you are, especially in these COVID times with colleges, you're weighed as an individual as much as it's expressed that you're compared against other people. It's really they're judging you individually and everything that you bring to the table.
We sure hope so. We sure hope so. Who's next? Where are you? Bailey? Did Bailey
I can
get
go
back?
waiting for Bailey.
Did we lose Bailey?
I don't know where Bailey is.
I thought Bailey left. Ray, it's your turn then.
All right. So hi guys, my name is Ray. I'm a senior here as well at the Putney School, except like Izzy, I came in as a transfer student. So I joined after my freshman year. So I came in as a new sophomore. And I'm from Brattleboro, Vermont, which is actually just 20 minutes down the road from Putney. So I'm a day student as well. And yeah, I came from a public school background. I went to all public schools before coming here to Putney. And, you know, my freshman year, I experienced a lot of just like the traditional learning system. So most of my classes were kind of copying notes off a board and then being tested on it, and then copying notes off a board on new material and then being tested on it. And for me, it just felt really restricting, and it felt like I was in a box. And I had had some friends that had gone to Putney, and I'd just known about it because I'd lived near it my whole life. And when I came in toward here, I was just opened up to, you know, the project-based learning and all the possibilities of kind of going down your own path, whether it's in arts, whether it's in academics, everything like that. And yeah, it really attracted me. And coming here to Putney and being able to utilize that has just been like a dream for me, honestly. And yeah, in applying to colleges, like somebody said before, it's been really interesting because, you know, I haven't gotten the opportunity. I only toured one college, and that was in February. So I haven't toured any colleges, haven't been able to do any in-person interviews or anything like that. So it's been kind of stressful knowing like what is the right choice for me. But attending like virtual panels like this for the colleges has been really helpful. And another thing with it has been interesting is that I haven't gotten the chance to take any standardized tests either. So this year we kind of got lucky in that way. And knowing that, I think leading up to college, there was such an emphasis on me for grades and standardized testing, but in reviewing applications, a lot of admissions counselors, at least for the colleges I've been looking at, have made an emphasis on it's not just grades, it's not just the test scores, it's just the full picture. And that's something that I also want to bring to the admissions committee and reviewing hopefully your guys' applications. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay, I think when Bailey comes back, we're going to let Bailey introduce themselves. But until Bailey comes back, I'd love us to shift gears. And I hope that doesn't make you guys who are visiting us feel on the spot. I'm gonna toss out two broad choices. You might have questions about Putney, about what it feels like to be a student leader. A lot of the committee members have had leadership positions before their senior year as well, or have other leadership positions. So that's a territory that they can talk about. And they can field questions about being a day student, a boarding student, kind of anything you want. So if you've got those questions, that's fine. Or you might actually have some ideas, which I would love to hear, about what you think the priorities would be if you were on the admission committee, or what you'd like us to be thinking about in particular this year. So I think the best way to do it is if you guys can use the chat function to just put in your first name, and then we will call first names and you will unmute yourself and you will share your question. How does that sound? Thank you for the facial response, Joaquin, that helped me. Okay, so I'm waiting for the chat to blow up with names. Did the gesture not help? I don't have to do gestures. Okay, we've had the polite pause and the quiet. Soon I'll start moving my eyebrows around. Oh, Owen, good. Where's Owen? Owen, unmute, share a question or a thought or whatever you want.
Okay, so I have a question. So if I get in, I will be a boarder, and I was wondering what like boarding's like every night, and how your people's experience is, like what you do every night, how it works.
Owen, what part of the country are you coming in from?
I'm coming from New York City. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to think if we have New York City in the house. We do not, on our group at least. Who's coming from close to an urban center? Jaden, you've got Atlanta, and you came in as a 9th grader. So could you take that one, or at least start us off?
No, yes, of course, John. Everything's a little bit different nowadays. I don't know if you other boarders would agree with me, but generally what has stayed the same is it's well, I know for some people coming from an urban place, not necessarily myself, I can't really relate to this, but it was an adjustment to have like a place to be at every time, to be accounted for. But I think that Putney, at any boarding school away from home, you have to keep track of the students, but I think that Putney is kind of unique in the way that there's a lot of freedom, where there's a lot of free time, but you still have to but I just, let me get to the point. I heard that it's an adjustment for some people for like in dorms, like especially now we have to be in the dorm in terms of keeping track of us at 9:30. So you can't just be anywhere you want. You have to be in your dorm by 9:30. What else? I mean,
Jaden, that's good. I'm going to pause you for a
Yeah.
second because I'm realizing I want to give you guys a little coaching, especially for the students who are hearing about Putney for the first time. Be sure to go down the road of what it's normally like, as well as if you want to go into what it's like in a pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
If you want. All I'm thinking is our current experience is pandemic, and if we stay there, you won't know what it's like normally, and hopefully by September, we're going to be back to something normal.
Right.
You weren't on either place. It was just occurring to me, Jaden.
No. Thank you, John.
What else?
Normally,
Yeah.
we would have check-in every night on school nights at 10 p.m. and then on Saturday nights at 11 p.m. But because of COVID, we've had check-in at 9:30 on weeknights and on school nights, and then 10 p.m. as of recently on Saturdays. But that's just check-in. That's check-in, which I've heard is different. What's also different is kind of the imagery. I found personally that I'm not usually one to get homesick, and I'm not saying that this is homesickness, but that being here, I've appreciated the outdoors more, and being here after so long has also made me appreciate the city more as well.
Because it's rural. So would you mind talking a little bit about maybe evening arts and the process of making friends with roommates or dorm mates, even if, you know what I mean, like that transition in?
Yeah, so in terms of dorm people, first you have this whole little cohort that you're living with. You have student dorm heads who you can go to and about issues, and they kind of help organize your life in the dorm. You have adult dorm heads. Then you have a roommate, and you fill out a roommate form to figure out if you like your windows open, and if you like waking up early or going to bed early, if you're neat. And sometimes those roommate pairings are great. Like in my case, I'm still with my roommate from freshman year, so that's a good example of when it works out. And most of the time I'd say it works out, because it's rare that people just switch during the year. And so you get a nice automatic friend from that. And then evening arts usually will happen twice a week. There's all kinds of stuff some of you might have read about, but like blacksmithing, painting, figure drawing, jewelry, like everything, madrigals. And you get this whole other group of people, and it's nice because often you kind of move through Putney with people who with whom you have kind of aligned academic interests, but with evening arts you can kind of wind up with a totally random group of people who you wouldn't have known otherwise. So that's really nice. That's 7:30 to 9, usually twice a week. And you just get to kind of hang out and do art or sing or dance.
It's cool. That's actually, I'm going to pause you there, because the pivot to you're meeting different groups of people and connecting with them in different ways. It also is the case that there's a group of people in your dorm that don't necessarily take the same math that you do or the same evening art. So there's different pools that you'll swim in. The nights that you're not doing evening arts, especially in your first year, you're likely to be doing study hall. Putney is a place that really respects the idea that you guys have to be part of building your journey and taking responsibility for yourselves. So generally, you're not going to some big gymnasium for a study hall. This year looks a little different, but usually you might be doing study hall in your room or a common room, or you might say, I really do better when there's a teacher around, and then you might go to what we call the CTL, the Center for Teaching and Learning, to do a supervised study hall. So you've got different options. Owen, does that do the trick for your question? Because there's about 7 more that I'd love to move on to, if that's okay. Super cool. Valerie, your turn.
So my question is, what are some unique aspects of the Putney School that other schools may not have?
Valerie, I apologize. I'm like 90 and I couldn't hear you. Would you mind just doing that again, but louder?
Yeah, sorry. What are some unique aspects of the Putney School that other schools may not have?
I could go off on this, and so I'm going to shut up. Students at Putney, please try to come up with one apiece, and Izzy and Ray, you can come up with 2 because you've been at other high schools. Go. Go, maybe go. Ray?
So definitely for me, one thing that really was striking in touring Putney and looking at Putney compared to my past school is the Project Week system. So I don't know who knows about that here, but anyways, Project Week is like a 2-week project-based thing where at the end of the fall and spring terms, you can pretty much take on any project you want. It has to be related to at least one of your academic classes in some way, but people can really do multiple different things. You know, one of my friends bought an old car her freshman year and wanted to make it work and wanted to be able to drive it, and then this is her senior year and she's been working on it every project week, and it's finally, she got the engine running last project week and she's going to be able to do it by the end of this year. One thing that I did also is I went, there was a group project week where a group of about 8 of us went to the Arizona-Mexico border, and we worked with an organization, Border Links, on learning more about the immigration crisis, immigration policy, in addition to going to the desert and helping with desert aid. So that was just an amazing experience for me, really eye-opening, and something that I definitely wouldn't have had if I hadn't come to Putney and if Project Week didn't exist. Another thing I'd say also is the work program. So the work program, again, I don't know who knows about this so far, but the work program is every trimester here at Putney, you'll have a job. So you'll have 3 jobs throughout the year. And that ranges from, working in the barn, doing dishes in the kitchen, waiting in the cafeteria, or, cleaning classroom buildings. And yeah, there's just a bunch of different opportunities, and it's a great way to give back to your community and take on responsibility. And again, like the evening arts program, like meet other students and collaborate in that way. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Other students have a unique aspect of Putney that you want to share? You don't have to, I'm just
Yeah.
checking if there's other stuff that comes
I
up.
can go. I think the most unique thing about Putney is the freedom that you have with your education. Teachers really want you to be interested in what you're learning about. So it's super cool to have teachers who are so passionate about not only making sure that you understand the content, but also like trying to execute it in a way that really works for you. So like, for example, I'm in calculus right now, and I was pretty set on never taking math past algebra 2, but here I am. And I have an awesome math teacher who I've had for the past 2 years, and she's done like a lot of work with me out of class, and we've done like a lot of extra stuff outside of class that maybe not some of the other students need to help understand the content, but like ways that have gotten me more interested in calc. And a lot of those ways are seeing how calculus like relates to the world around me and like where it shows up in my everyday life that I didn't know about.
Cool, thank you. Any other Putney students have a unique thing to add, or can I go on to the next question, which will be from Isadora? That sounds like it's Isadora's turn.
Hi. So my question is, I'm really curious on like what the student-teacher relationship is like, and obviously I like can kind of get the vibe that it's obviously, especially since it's a boarding school, but like, sorry, that students have like relationships with their teachers, but I'm kind of wondering to like what extent, and like, I don't know, just like learning a little more about
No,
that.
it's a really great question because it is one of those immensely definitive parts of your life when you're at a boarding school. You guys, I don't want to manage you on this one. One of you or more of you have feelings or thoughts about this, so jump in. And don't be shy or I'll be pushy. Go on, so.
I can go. Well, basically the story Izzy told, I feel like just tells it pretty well, but like, I think a lot of people here have like at least one teacher that they just feel like they can go to for even non-class related stuff. I mean, you have an advisor who is like meant for that, but I honestly, like, I feel like I have like 4 different advisors basically who I go to for different things. One fun thing I did with a teacher last year was we're kind of reevaluating our composting system at Putney right now, and we wanted to look at this other school, the North Country School in Lake Placid, New York, their system. And so this teacher, Michael, he's a math teacher and he does farm related stuff. So he's been working on the compost stuff. He had me in geometry, and then we also like went on this 4-hour road trip to this school during the winter to like look at their compost. So and we also go to farming conferences together. So Michael's fun. I think you can do really all kinds of stuff, and teachers I think are equally willing to work with you in class as they're supposed to, as they are to just like support you outside of class and make other things happen that you want to work on.
Also, sorry, my question kind of had 2 parts. I'm a junior right now, and so I would be applying to like redo junior and senior year. Like, what's it like when you're like joining from a different grade? Because I know that a lot of schools will have like orientation or something like that, but
Izzy, this has got to be yours because she did pretty much the same thing.
So I did the exact same thing as you, and I'm I guess repeat senior now. And I also actually started at a completely different school last year, And so I didn't even come into Putney last year when all the other new students were coming in. I came in like 3 or 4 weeks late. So I didn't have any orientation. But I think the really cool thing about Putney is everyone here is so different. And like, as John said, we have a pretty diverse set of backgrounds that I felt like super welcomed, even though I was like pretty singled out in the sense that I was like this new kid, the only new kid coming in at the same time. It's super quick to make friends, and you don't like you get alone time when you want it, but you have your classes, you have your evening arts, you have your jobs, you have your dorm. So there's like different sets of people. So if you're feeling like I'm not finding friends through my classes, you're probably going to find a friend in evening arts or through your job or in your dorm. But yeah, if you have any questions also about like repeating and what that's like, feel free to ask them.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
In the admission office, do you know? Have one of our people been in touch with you at all, Isadora?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't really reached out that much yet. I tried to apply for this junior year, but so like I think that I've been in touch with like some people, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna like.
No big deal. I just wanted to let you know, like Izzy would be a great resource for you, and the admission team would also be good for that too. Catherine Kambara?
Thank you.
Where are you, Catherine? Is Catherine here? Okay, Maya, your turn.
Okay, hi. I was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read somewhere on the website that you don't like have grades, or you don't like get them until you're applying to colleges. And so I was wondering how that's like positively affected you, but also if you've done like in the classes, if you were sort of at the same level that you thought you were at, or just like how you were doing in general with that.
Okay, Putney students, I would love it if it's possible, if one of you knows that you were kind of grade oriented before and then had to adjust to Putney, which didn't show you grades. I'd love you to try to take that question. Do any of you self-identify that way?
I can hop in.
Hop away.
So yeah, like I said, I came from public school, just the local public school here. And we had this thing called Power School, which was an app on your phone where every day you'd get the grade for your past assignment. And every like minute you could check your grades. So it was probably about like 3 times a day I'd be like checking my grades, scrolling through, you know, things like that. So I was pretty grade obsessed. So when I came into Putney, I actually had your exact same question about grades. And you know, it was kind of a concern for me because I was so used to getting my feedback from my teachers in that way. So when I asked my admissions counselor about that, you know, in Putney's mission statement, it says work for, there's a specific line, I can't remember it by heart, but pretty much it's kind of working for, you know, your own motive to gain more knowledge rather than looking for that validation through a grade. And definitely that's one thing that I've done here at Putney is, you know, having the motivation to learn and invest myself in classes through just wanting to learn more about the content rather than looking for those grades. And still, when I got my grades junior year, I wasn't too stressed out about it either, because although you don't get to see your letter grade, you get at the end of every midterm like effort marks and teacher comments. So teacher comments has been really helpful for me because, you know, at my past school, again, I was just looking at the grades, but I didn't actually get the feedback or know what I needed to improve on specifically. So in looking at teacher comments, it's like about a paragraph that each teacher writes personalized to you, talking about the assignments that you've worked on, things that you can improve on, things that you did great throughout the trimester, etc. And then there's an effort mark. So it's a scale of 1 to 4, where it's just kind of the teacher's perception of your efforts throughout the course. And that includes in like in-class engagement, assignments, things like that. So although you don't get your actual letter grades, you definitely get the feedback, and yeah.
Jaden, did you have anything to augment that, or are we good?
No, I can jump in. I feel like I've also found it to be sort of like a life lesson, because I think that before, when I was really grade oriented, I found it easier for me I was like the kid to like move in silence as long as I get my work done. But there's way more to learning and getting graded than that. And it kind of forces you to find more ways other than your assignments to communicate to express your interest and communicate your effort rather than that. And I think that the like effort marks are a really good system to like for the teachers to be transparent with the kids about like what they're observing. And they also have just enough wiggle room for you to be like, because everything is up for interpretation. Everything in life is someone else's perception, basically. So for them to say, this is what I'm perceiving about you, it's like, oh, let me change. I could see how they see that. Let me change this. Or I don't see how they see that because I'm trying this, this, and this. Like, there's also that open communication there for you to communicate and make it work for you, basically.
Great. Listen, guys, from the teacher's standpoint, one of the reasons we don't show you letter grades, is that we don't really relish the idea of arguing with you about whether you earned a B+ or an A- as much as we relish the possibility of talking with you about how you are doing in your learning. So giving you feedback about what's working is great, and giving you feedback about what's confusing or what we're screwing up as teachers, and having a dialogue be possible about that is one of the most liberating parts of not showing you grades. You see them by the time you're in the middle of your junior year, starting the college search process. And when I first came here, I was very skeptical, and I thought, no chance this works. And I bet the parents are up in arms about it. And my head of school in my very first month said, give it a chance, Mr. Skeptical. See how the kids react when they see their grades. I thought, oh, that's fair. And I waited and I talked to kids about how it was to see their letter grades. And really what I was looking for was, are you surprised? Did any of these things, come out of the blue? Did you feel like you were getting A's and suddenly you saw C's? And it didn't happen. And it means that what Ray and Jaden were talking about in terms of the dialogue that does happen with teachers is actually about the substance of learning, and it doesn't surprise you when you had challenges in some areas or strengths in others. Okay, Catherine said she couldn't unmute her phone because it's too noisy, but her question was, what are some unique ways that Putney helps cultivate a student's academic interests? So students, one of you who've had kind of the Renaissance experience and tried different things probably could go at this. And I'm wondering who it is. I'm thinking Sophie Banks, but I may be wrong. That's a skeptical face from Sophie. Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I'll try. Someone can add on. Let me think. Well, actually, does anyone have something on the forefront of their mind? Izzy?
I can talk, Sophie, for a little bit. Yeah, I think Project Week is a pretty good example of a unique way that Putney helps to cultivate people's academic interests. A lot of people will take a new class in a subject that they're not familiar with, and then become super excited by whatever that subject may be, and they're able to take that excitement and put it into a new project week. And the super great thing about Project Week is you get to work one-on-one with your supervisor, advisor, I don't really know exactly what we call them, a teacher or a faculty member that helps you design a project that's going to help further your interest or understanding in whatever subject that you're excited about. Yeah, I also think Putney works really hard to help students see the relationship between math and English and science and art and science and English, and understanding that all those things are related really helps you to become more excited about a subject that normally you might not be as excited about.
I'm actually going to jump in because I want to be sure we get to the next questions. But Catherine, I think the intellectual freedom that you have at Putney, not everyone uses it as much as it's possible to use, but even using it a little is a lot different than most schools. So the freedom that we give you to invent things and to build your own path, along with the reality that there's students who exist when you get there who are already making use of that freedom. So in some ways, we stoke your academic interest and the breadth of those interests by showing you, by example, by seeing your friends do stuff that you never would have imagined. I'm thinking of a guy who was an engineer and an artist who used Project Week to replicate a mechanical operating version of a hummingbird and filmed it. And it took him 3 or 4 different project weeks to get the darn thing off the ground. And he was learning the whole way. He was a scientist and an artist. He ends up at Carnegie Mellon. He's brilliant, but it's really cool. And who would have even thought of, like, I never would have thought of that. And if I were a student, so maybe I would the next time. Okay, Kaya Streb, it's your turn next.
Okay.
Hey, Kaya.
Hi. My first question.
Much louder if you don't mind. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Sorry, I kind of talk quietly sometimes. But my question was, like, what is the dorm layout, if that makes any sense? Like, is it like there's a dorm room that you share with your dorm mate, and then there's a like common room area, or is it like something different?
Okay, I'm going to take this one because it's fast. All of our dorms are very different, so the physical layout varies. The things they have in common are dorm rooms, apartments for at least 2 different adult dorm heads. They have a common area. They have a kitchenette. You're not making full meals, but you can heat stuff up. Some of them have, well, I'll say different ones have different features that are appealing. One of them has the most extraordinary view I've ever seen, and it used to look like a trailer park from the outside, but they rehabbed it, so it's really quite interesting now. Another one looks like a teeny little cottage in Cape Cod. It's a little peculiar, it's got character, it's got warmth. One of them, the kids, at least the last time I was in it, kept the lights off all the time, and I thought it was depressing in the hallway. Students add, and somebody make mention of a cabin too. That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, I live in a cabin.
Excellent.
We do cook full meals. We cook a lot. Yeah, there are 5 cabins which you live in with one other person. You can apply for them as a senior. You heat your cabin with a wood stove, and you catch the mice that show up.
I just love that line. You capture the mice that show up. That will do well in the recording. You do get to capture the mice. You don't eat the mice, do you? No, because there was an implied capturing and felling.
I just mean like the cabins don't come with a cat.
No, they don't. Although there are cats on campus, and they might visit sometimes. Anybody else have something to add on the dorms, or should we move on to Samantha Gottlieb's question?
If you don't mind, I just wanted to ask one more quick question. And that was about kind of the arts. So I really enjoy pottery, and I was wondering what you're like, if you have a pottery studio, and if so, like, what does that look like?
Which student's going to take that? Who's a potter?
I'll take it. I've spent a significant amount of time in the ceramic studio when I was a freshman. Yeah, there's a ceramic studio. It's on top of a building. It's decently sized for a ceramic studio, I think, especially for the size of our school. There are about like 8 wheels and a big table for you to hand build things on. There's a ceramics teacher. Her name's Naomi. She's really nice. She's very experienced in pottery, and she's really talented, so she can help you out. As you probably already know, clay is really finicky to work with, so she's really good at like directing you on what's going to work and what's going to not, and how to achieve your creative dream with that as well.
All right. By the way, if we do get through first questions, those who have follow-ups, we can keep doing that, but I do want to make sure we get to everybody, and I've already lost track, so that was that Samantha? Samantha, where are you?
Hi.
It's your turn, Samantha.
Great. I was just wondering, like, what are some ways that leadership is encouraged around campus, and what are some leadership experiences that you guys have had at Putney?
I'm going to take the first part, and one of you is going to take the second part, okay? The way in which it's encouraged is the reality that students help to operate the school. I mean, literally. So when a student comes to school and is part of the barn crew, they're going to be learning from another student, more likely than from an adult. They operate the dairy farm that exists on the campus. They help make the dining hall operation function. The positions range from hard physical work all the way to, thinking work. The admission committee is reading a lot and debating and collaborating. But the culture, I think there's probably 65 kids out of 230. That's a full quarter who have formal leadership positions. And the culture in the classroom, where no one has a position of leadership, is also about students taking up their authority and their voice in order to make the class run. It's not like a student runs class, but it is like a class can't run without the voice of students. And I think that's true for the whole school too. So I'd say that's the answer to the first part of your question. And the second part, one of you guys should field. And Samantha, would you say again what the second part of the question was?
What are some leadership experiences you guys have had around Putney?
If you guys would just do some quick bullets and share, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah, I can jump in. Like John was saying, leadership positions really vary. So last year, I was both a day student representative and a member of the Student Weekend Activities Planning Committee, also known as SWAP. So in day student representative, it was like an elected position. It was great. I got to work alongside my fellow representative, and we would do things like host meetings, talk to the administration about figuring day student related problems out, different things like that. Where in the SWAP committee, we would also have like a couple meetings a week and then plan weekend events, which are really fun. And it ranged from things like a slow bike race to like there's a pond on our campus and we shoveled all the snow off one cold January evening and put speakers and lights on it, and we had like a party out on the ice where we like skated around, which was really nice. So again, there's just a bunch of different opportunities. Like I think Sophie's on SUSTI, which is the Sustainable Committee. There's also like the work committee, so they run the work programs, things like that. But yeah, if anybody else has anything else to say, go for it.
Any other positions you guys want to shout out that you've been involved with, or? No? We're going to keep going then. Okay, Joaquin, you're next.
Hi, I'm Joaquin Del Prado. I'm coming from southeastern Connecticut, and I have kind of two questions that go hand in hand. So one is, when a new boarding student arrives, is it difficult to make friends or have social interactions? And my second one is social interaction, are social interactions dampened by now that it's COVID times, and how does that work? Like, can you still hang out with people, or is it in cohorts?
I can hit the last part, and then one of you guys on the boarding side is going to take the first part. It's in cohorts while we're making sure that everyone's safe. And I think it's, you guys check me on this, I think it's true that once we got beyond the point of knowing that everyone was COVID-free, that you're still masked, you're still distanced, but you can hang out with kids from other dorms. Is that right? Okay. And what's it like to make friends in the boarding school environment? Can one of you hit that?
Well, like I was gonna quote you on this one, Izzy. Like Izzy said, if you don't make friends in one place, you're bound to make friends in another place. And because the school is so small, we all are not like just familiar with each other, but like we all know each other pretty well because we've all interacted with each other at least once. So I think people tend to settle in fairly quickly on the spectrum. Izzy, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. And as I said before, and Jaden reiterated, like, if you're not making friends in your classes or in your dorm, you're bound to make them in an evening class or from your work job. But also the atmosphere of Putney in general is a super welcoming place. And it's also, I think, really reassuring to keep in mind when you're a new boarding student that like 70% of the school has been in your shoes before. The other, I don't know, probably 30 being day students, but like people have been there and they remember that it can be really scary at first. And I think people here are really good at recognizing that, like, if you're new, you're scared and nervous to make new friends, and people will definitely reach out to you.
I mean, the adults are in on that game too, to be candid. I mean, we're trying to encourage students to talk about the reality of it being frightening and it being a transition. And hey, student leaders, remember what it was like when you were in this spot. It usually works out pretty well. Ezra was next. Where's Ezra?
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering about the music program. I'm a musician. I was just wondering about let's just details about it.
Before we jump on it, tell us what your instrument or instruments are.
I play piano. That's my main instrument, but I also play trumpet.
Okay. Ray, I think this is you. Even though you've got different experiences, then I mean you're all over the place. But hit that if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, hi Ezra. I also played trumpet. I'm old school, but I unfortunately haven't yet here at Putney. But yeah, I'm a musician as well. I sing and play guitar. And there's a lot of different opportunities to, expand on your music knowledge here at Putney. We have in our academic classes, we have things offered like music theory. There's also music intensives where I believe it's kind of making your own curriculum. So if you wanted to do one, say on piano, it's learning a specific style of piano. Learning some pieces, doing some performances, and also kind of writing and doing some reflective work on it. For instruments that you already know, or if other people want to learn instruments, there are private music lessons offered. So that's when you meet one-on-one with a music teacher here at the Putney School. So I took vocal lessons, and it was a really helpful way for me to expand on the style of singing that I wanted to learn more about, and really just get that training down. Again, there are so many different opportunities. So not only in the academic art classes, but in evening classes as well. There are, there's jazz band, a jazz basics course where I play guitar, but I'd never played jazz guitar. So it was a great opportunity for me to just dive in with a bunch of new beginners as well and learn more about jazz. There's also courses offered, I don't know if I already said songwriting, but also music production, which is a great way to learn how to record your own music, write your own songs, and mix and master them from there. So yeah, there's a bunch of different opportunities.
Thank you so much for the question, Ezra. It's a really cool program. There's a lot, the place is very, very creative, whether you're in a music studio or in a science class. And it's part of the DNA here, which is really cool. Lewis, you're next. Hey, Lewis.
Hi. I was wondering about your blacksmithing department and a little bit about that.
Good. The part that I can tell you is it's popular and it's not easy to get into it early. I just want to be transparent about that. And then I'll ask the students, have any of you guys done it yet? Don't be shy. No? It's not a gender thing. There's girls and guys that are doing it, right? Okay. Do you know anybody who's done it?
Well, actually, at the moment, I own and run my own blacksmithing business.
Oh my goodness. Just bring your forge on up.
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering if there would be free time that I would be able to go into there and work on things for customers.
Okay, so I want to be super straight with you because you deserve a really candid answer. My hunch is that because that's one of the few areas that actually has potential danger, like physical danger to it, they probably aren't going to let you go in on your own. It's probably going to have to be with supervision. That said, if you're coming in with experience and capacity, you're not going to get them to fudge the safety rules, but you may be able to get in there more than you would normally because you've already got a business going on it and you can show them what you're capable of doing. So there's a little gray area in there, Louis. I think if you want to check Putney out and you work with an admission counselor, just remind them that you and I talked about this and that we want to explore like how much, I don't want to say how much could you get away with, I want to say how much could you get a chance to do your metalworking. Brian, you did a lot of this work when you were a student at Putney, but I'm not sure if the rules were as clear then as they are now.
I know, I was thinking about when I was in school, so I did a huge metal sculpture my senior year, and often I was in the metal area all by myself, welding primarily. We did use the forge some when people weren't around, but I don't want to promise anything because that was back a while ago. But the short of it is that Putney really embraces passion, and so definitely through project weeks you'd be able to, and I'm sure we could figure out a way to have you get in there a lot more than because you have experience and are excited about it.
Louis, if you end up deciding to go forward a little bit, you should make sure that Brian's the guy you're working with because he's one of our admission counselors. He's an alum, and he said, he made a little sculpture. His sculpture is the size of Rhode Island. It looks to me like an eagle. It's beautiful, and it's like the capstone of our pond. Okay, gotta apologize for that little interruption. And we have one more question and very little time. And we're not getting to our second question. Okay, Lillian, you were the last one with a question. Where's Lillian?
Hi there.
Hi.
So I wanted to ask how the seniors and students had benefited from Putney clearly has a very progressive education style. And I wanted to ask how they benefited from that as students, but also as people, and how they would apply it going forward after Putney.
Wow, that's a large question, Lillian. Since it's the last question, and since this will be a challenge, each of you take 30 seconds to try to answer that overarching question. Start with Izzy to Sophie to Jaden to Ray. No? Yeah?
Okay. I think the biggest thing I feel like Putney's education style has opened my eyes in a certain way. I think it's just to be more open-minded, and as Jaden said at one point, everything is perception, and people are judging you by perception. So having confidence within yourself that you are understanding content, are happy with what you're learning, stuff like that is more important than a grade that you're getting.
Cool. Sophie?
I would say one big thing is that I actually was just talking to a teacher the other day. We were talking about this, is if you're applying for something and it says that you don't meet the qualifications to even think about applying, basically the mindset of still applying and still trying for whatever it is. That's a specific example, but just trying things even when it's presented as something that you won't be able to do or something new or challenging, and just taking a lot of control over your life and making things work for you no matter what situation you're in.
Oh, I'm inspired. Jaden.
Oh my gosh. As you said my name, I blinked a little bit on what I was about to say.
Wait, I'll say a different name.
No,
Josephine. No.
Yeah.
Oh no, oh shoot. Okay, that means I'm free.
Yeah, remember that a close, as we were talking about before, John mentioned before that not that many people, hello? Can you hear me? Oh.
I can. The internet is a little sketchy right now.
Okay, that not that many people take take advantage of freedom that you. And are you good?
Oh boy.
I'm gonna mute her and let's move on.
Okay, Ray, if you've got something to add, or did you start us? I'm losing track.
Yeah, I can add in. I think one thing for me that I really learned, and it's kind of echoing Sophie in a way, but is to really, I think for me, it's to have fun with what you're doing, and that's the most important thing, because I think one thing for me that held me back from trying new things, or investing myself in situations where I didn't feel qualified or I didn't know that much about like a specific area, was that I would just be scared of, trying the new thing and being a beginner at it. But I think, here at Putney, I was in like the ice skating program where we played hockey. We had the pond hockey afternoon, and none of us knew how to skate. And we got out there with our hockey sticks and our skates, and it was just all about having fun. And we were all just like slipping all over the ice, but it was just such a great experience. And same with the jazz basics course, where I didn't know anything about jazz, and I really wasn't that talented in like guitar soloing or anything like that. But after taking that course, not necessarily did it give me confidence, but it really gave me knowledge that I wouldn't have had otherwise if I hadn't pushed myself. And it was just really fun and a good experience. So
thank you. Jaden,
I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna jump in here real quick as an alum. So, I graduated from Putney 15 years ago or something. And I think how it has changed me is it's made me be able to say yes to my dreams. Like I come up with a harebrained idea, and instead of being shut down and thinking that I can't do something, Putney has really built the confidence in myself that I can say yes. So I've done that over and over again, and I convinced John that he should hire me and to come back to Putney and work in admissions. So everything has worked out. So
no, but he's not cool. Kidding about dreams. It's Jaden, if you got a one sentence finish up, that's cool. We got some of what you were saying, and then the internet stopped working.
Well, I was just gonna say that it's really hard to be complacent here, and like John said, some people use the opportunities that you have to like have freedom and make what you want out of it, but it's a life lesson that I think that I've learned is that a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And it being so difficult to stay complacent, like you really have to force yourself to like say what you need, what you want, or what you need, or else it will just like fall into your lap. And I think that was kind of hard for me at first, but I think that's what.
Okay, so two things. Thing one, admission committee members, you rock. You were wonderful. Thank you so much for helping out. Thing two, you visitors, you prospective applicants, you may be Putney students of the future. We're really excited to learn more about you. I hope you enjoyed this. You're gonna get an email, or at least I'm gonna send an email to the email that registered you for this. And I'm gonna say, thanks so much for being with us, and hope you had a good time, hope it was useful. And then I'm gonna put a link in there, which is essentially, if you haven't talked to somebody yet at Putney about admissions, I want you to make a time with me. And if you leave this after having spent the entire hour here, plus 5 minutes, and not getting off, maybe you don't want to come to Putney. I don't know why that would be the case, but maybe that's the case. So then don't reply to my email. But if you're kind of excited by how different a place this is and what it might be for your future, why then click, let's connect, and let's get you in the process. And you'll hear soon about next week's leaders panel, which is about sustainability.